All right, so we're back for another deep dive, and this time we're going even deeper into Rascal Does Not Dream of Bunny Girl Senpai.
Picking up right where we left off, exploring adolescence and all that.
Exactly. Those teenage struggles and how they can kind of manifest in, well, pretty bizarre ways.
Puberty syndrome, as they call it.
Right, puberty syndrome. So if you haven't checked out our previous deep dives on this show, you might want to do that just to get up to speed. But today we're tackling episode 9, and let me tell you, it throws some serious curveballs.
Before we jump into all that, though, just a quick reminder. What exactly is puberty syndrome again? For those who, might need a refresher.
Okay, so imagine, like, all those teenage anxieties and, desires, but instead of staying hidden, they kind of explode into reality, sometimes in, well, supernatural ways, like poof.
Yeah, so it's like your fear of being ignored could literally make you invisible.
Or your longing for attention could turn you into, like, overnight celebrity.
Crazy, right. It's a pretty wild concept, but it works as a metaphor for, that whole inner world of teenagers, all those emotions and how intense they can be.
Exactly, and episode 9 takes this whole puberty syndrome thing to a whole new level with, get this, a body swap.
And not just any body swap. We're talking about Mai Sakurajima, the main girl, swapping bodies with her younger sister, Nodoka.
Yeah, so we're going to be diving deep into all of that, looking at what fans are saying on my Anim list about this episode, like what really got them excited, what left them scratching their heads, and, all those theories they came up with.
It's almost like we're pooling our collective brain power here, to really dissect this episode and see what it's all about.
Exactly. And speaking of fan insights, user Stark700 points out something pretty interesting. The timeline has shifted. See, it's now the second semester. And that's when Nodoka really steps into the spotlight.
She's not just a background character anymore. Now she's front and center, but with a twist. Literally.
Yeah, she's in Mai's body. And as user Aversa points out, it's not exactly a smooth transition. They describe Nodoka appearing as Mai with this kind of, like, unsettling vibe.
It's important to remember that puberty syndrome is all rooted in the subconscious, right? So it's not like they just magically swap bodies. It's more like they're inhabiting each other's entire identity, fears, dreams, the whole shebang.
Whoa, heavy stuff.
Mm.
And speaking of heavy, user Bulgulaces really praises the director for how they depicted the emotional toll this takes on Nodoka. There's this scene where she's, like, hyperventilating, and they say it's a really accurate portrayal of a panic attack.
It's moments like that that elevate the show beyond your typical, body swap shenanigans. It acknowledges the psychological impact of this kind of experience. Imagine you're suddenly thrust into a life you're not prepared for, constantly being compared to someone else. It's got to be tough.
Let's talk about pressure. It makes you think about that whole theme running through the series, struggling to figure out who you are when everyone has expectations of you?
Absolutely. And user Landofthickwet brings up a fascinating observation. They say that Nodoka only seems to find success after Maya steps back from the spotlight. Like, it was only when she wasn't in her sister's shadow that she could truly shine.
Whoa, now that's interesting. It makes you wonder, is the show saying we can only reach our full potential when we break free from all those comparisons?
Or maybe it's about finding your own path, even if it means stepping outside those predefined roles and expectations.
Deep stuff, right. But hey, not every fan was completely on board with this episode's, deep dive into identity and all that. User Palanga actually says the show feels a bit repetitive here, wishing for more focus on, the romance between Sakuta and Mai.
That's a fair point. I mean, for some viewers, the main draw is that central relationship, and these puberty syndrome cases can feel like, a detour from that.
But okay, you got to admit, the internet's reaction to the body swap itself was priceless. Like, user Ekigod Mamster perfectly sums it up with this hilarious comment. I woke up saying May Sans, but I get a Y.
I mean, it's a bit over the top, but you can't deny it adds to the entertainment factor.
For sure. And then the episode throws in another curveball just to keep us on our toes. This mysterious cabinet that Mai specifically tells Sakuta, don't you dare open this.
Yeah, and Shingster lays it out perfectly, summarizing the main plot points. Nodoka and Mai swapped, their mothers are adding to the drama, and then boom, this forbidden cabinet.
It's like a giant do not press button for Sakuta. And we all know how he handles those.
The comment section is exploding with theories about what's inside. Like Seti Bear and Leonidas, they're all over it, wondering if Sakuta can resist the temptation.
And that's where we'll leave you hanging for now. But before we go, let's throw a question out to our listeners. If puberty syndrome is all about facing those inner struggles, what could that cabinet represent for Mai? Like, is it a hiding place for her deepest fears or insecurities or something else entirely?
Something to ponder as we continue our deep dive in the next part. All right, welcome back to our deep dive. We left off with Sakuta facing a pretty classic dilemma, right? Mysterious cabinet, explicit instructions to leave it alone. Wonder what it'll do.
Yeah, you can practically see the viewers predicting this one. Like, User Theme Parks points out the irony, quoting Mai saying, "Never ever open the cabinets in the Japanese-style room," and then, bam, Sakuta opens cabinet. It's like clockwork.
It's like Mai practically dared him to open it by forbidding it. User Doinked even suggests she might be using, like, reverse psychology on him. Knowing Sakuta telling him not to do something is basically a guarantee he'll do it.
Yeah, she's definitely got a playful side. Yeah. But it makes you wonder, did Sakuta really mess up this time, or was this like a calculated risk? Maybe even a way to help Mai and Nodoka somehow?
Good question. User Falcon28 just says, "Oh no, not the drawer," which I think perfectly captures that like collective gasp from the audience. Whatever's in that cabinet, it's a big deal. And Sakuta just kicked off a whole chain of events.
Okay, so Pandora's box is open, right? What happens? Spill the tea.
Well, things get pretty messy. Remember, we're dealing with this body swap, and user Selberry755 points out how weird it is to see Mai acting so differently in Nodoka's body. It's just off.
Oh yeah, that beach scene. Sakuta's reactions were, well, very Sakuta. User Shisho23 even quotes him saying, "I'd like them to sandwich me. Specifically, I mean my face."
He's definitely not one to hold back, is he? Crude, yeah, but also honest in a way. Sakuta just says what he thinks, even if it's awkward or totally inappropriate. It's kind of what makes him relatable, I guess.
Yeah, he's not afraid to be himself, even if it's cringy sometimes. But okay, beyond the laughs, this episode gets pretty serious too, especially when it comes to Mai and Nodoka's relationship. It's clearly strained.
Definitely. User Removed User calls it the emotional core of the episode. It's not just about the body swap or the cabinet, it's about the tension between these sisters. Something's been brewing there for a while.
And User Scartop brings up a point that I think a lot of people can relate to. The pressure of parental expectations. Especially when you're always being compared to a sibling who seems, more successful. It can really mess with your self-esteem.
It's so true. We all want to feel valued, especially by our family. And when that validation seems to go to someone else, it can be hard to find your own worth.
Like you're constantly being judged, even if that's not the intention. It's a lot to carry, and both Mai and Nodoka are clearly struggling with it.
User Isama takes it a step further and suggests that the cabinet itself might be a symbol of all that hidden tension and emotional baggage. Like, what if it represents all those unspoken truths, the things they've been holding back for years?
Whoa, that's a deep interpretation. It turns the cabinet from a simple mystery into something much more meaningful. It's not about the physical contents, but the emotional weight it carries.
Speaking of weight, user VD praises Asami Sito, the voice actress for Mai. They say she does an amazing job portraying both Mai and Nodoka, even when they're in each other's bodies. Talk about talent.
It's like she's giving two performances at once, capturing the essence of each character while also dealing with this whole body swap craziness. Super impressive.
It adds another layer of complexity to the whole thing, right? It's not just about looks changing. It's about trying to embody someone else's thoughts and feelings while also trying to hold on to your own identity.
Yeah, that's got to be tough. Now, not everyone was completely sold on this episode. User Animages calls it the weakest so far, even though they still find the body swap and the issues it raises interesting.
And user Lycopene was concerned about the pacing. They felt like some scenes were rushed and could have used more depth.
That's a common issue with anime adaptations.
Yeah.
Trying to squeeze a complex story into a limited amount of time, sometimes things get left out.
It's a balancing act for sure. But even with those criticisms, the ending still left people wanting more. That cliffhanger with the cabinet, it's like, what's going to happen next?
Yeah, and more importantly, how will this affect Sakuta and Mai? Did he ruin their trust by opening the cabinet, or will this bring them closer?
So many questions. We'll have to wait and see. Join us for the final part of our deep dive as we unpack the mystery of the cabinet and explore what it all means for Mai, Nodoka, and Sakuta.
Okay, deep divers, we're back and ready to finish our exploration of episode 9. Things are about to get real. That forbidden cabinet, the one Sakuta was told not to touch. Well, the secrets are coming out, and the fans on my anima list, they had a lot to say.
Oh yeah, you can practically feel the anticipation in the comments. User Makura39 sums it up perfectly. They're like, what is in my cupboard? It feels like torture to wait for next week.
Talk about a cliffhanger. And then, of course, Sakuda does what Sakuda does, breaks the rules. User theme cards nailed it. They're like, Maisel never, ever open the cabinets in the Japanese-style room. And then, boom, Sakuda opens cabinet. Classic.
I mean, we all knew it was coming, right? But this time, it's not just about Sakuda being a troublemaker. User Fullholter reminds us about the tension between Mai and Nodoka. Could this cabinet hold the key to, figuring out what went wrong between them?
Good point. User Terrorist thinks maybe it's something from Mai's past, like a memento or a symbol of their falling out. And they also bring up a really important question. Will this hurt Sakuda's relationship with Mai, going against her wishes like that?
Trust is a big deal in this anime, right? And Sakuda basically just threw that out the window. User Proof by Color wonders if it was all a test, but they also admit maybe Sakuda genuinely screwed up, and that could have serious consequences.
So we've got a mystery on top of a mystery. What's in the cabinet, and will Sakuda and Mai be okay? And all this while they're still dealing with the body swap. User Limaulk points out how uncomfortable it is to see Mai stuck in Nodoka's body, living a life that's not hers. It really highlights that inner conflict they're both going through.
Yeah, this episode really shows that puberty syndrome isn't just about weird stuff happening on the outside. It's about confronting those inner demons, those fears and anxieties we try to hide. User Nurgaburu puts it perfectly, a body swapping. .min. We'll see what happens. It's like, who am I? Where do I belong?
And users Wolf12 brings up a good point about Mai. They say this whole arc gives us a new appreciation for her talent and the pressure she's under. Seeing Nodoka struggle to keep up with Mai's schedule shows just how capable Mai really is. It's like, hey, she's not just a pretty face. She's worked hard to get where she is.
It's a good reminder that there's more to her than meets the eye. But hey, even with all the drama, there's still room for some laughs. User Kike Daggerheat had me cracking up at their comment. Kiad had me rolling. Older brother has gone delinquent. Older brother turned into a gigolo show.
Poor Kitty, she's just trying to figure out what's going on with her brother.
It's true. Kide's innocence brings a bit of lightness to the episode. Reminds us that even when things are tough, there's always room for a little humor.
So as we wrap up our deep dive, I want to go back to that question you asked earlier. If puberty syndrome is about facing those inner struggles, what does the cabinet represent for Mai? What's she hiding in there? And what about Sakuda? What does his decision to open it say about him? Is he just curious? Or is there something more to it? Maybe a need to understand Mai on a deeper level.
It leaves you thinking, doesn't it?
It really does. This episode makes us think about trust, about the ups and downs of relationships, and about facing those parts of ourselves we'd rather keep hidden.
That's what's so great about this show. It doesn't give us easy answers. It makes us think, challenges us to figure things out for ourselves.
And that's why we love it, right?
Sure.
It's thought-provoking, it's engaging, and it leaves us wanting more.
So what did you think about the cabinet? What did it reveal about Mai and about her relationship with Sakuda? Keep those theories coming and join us next time for another deep dive into the world of Rascal Does Not Dream of Bunny Girl Senpai.